One of the most common security problems in Azure DevOps is having keys, secrets, and certificates in plain text, either in the code or the pipeline script itself. What I'll be covering here is a simple 101 on using the service connections feature in DevOps to create resources securely in Azure Cloud with a service principal account. We'll then use that service connection to create a simple resource group in Azure using a PowerShell script. In Azure, if you're not familiar, service principal accounts are effectively robot accounts and are primarily used for automating stuff, and they provide a secure way to get access to resources in Azure. I recommend using a service principal account rather than your own personal account when using DevOps. So I'll be doing most of this through the Azure portal UI. That's because it's just a little bit more visual, but of course it's just as easy to do this via the CLI too. So today we'll go through creating a service principal account, creating a service connection in Azure DevOps, and creating a simple Azure pipeline with some file-based scripts. So let's have a look at the first step, which is creating an app registration or that service principal account. So get access to your Active Directory. Here's our company's Active Directory here, and we'll go down to app registrations, which is where the service principal accounts are. New registration, where we'll register a new service principal account, and we'll just call this something like test service connection, and we'll just stick with the standard account type under our company and register that. And we'll get back some high-level details about the account, such as the client and the tenant ID. So we'll grab a copy of those and put that into a text file, as we'll be using some of these values later on. So let's grab those. Pop them into Notepad. What we'll do now is we'll create a secret for this service account, this service principal account. And this is effectively like the password. You can either use certificates or secrets, but we'll use a secret in this case. We'll add that. Now once that's added, you'll only be able to see this value once. So let's copy that and pop that into our Notepad, just so we've got that there later when we need to use that. Now we want to give permissions to this service account to the subscription. So this is just the pay-as-you-go subscription. We'll go into access control and we'll add a role assignment, and we'll find that we'll just give it an owner. Obviously we'd be a bit more circumspect if we wanted to do this for real. Let's find that test service connection and we'll save that. So that's added as a role assignment for that service principal account as an owner. And we can see that there with the owner role. So now that we've done that, it's got permission to the subscription. We'll head over to Azure DevOps, and we've got a project here set up called Test Service Connection. And we'll go down to the project settings, and this is where you set up your service connection. Now we can see service connections down there. We'll click on that. We'll create a service connection. We'll use Azure Resource Manager, and we'll use our own manual service principal account. And this is where we put in the subscription IDs. This is that pay-as-you-go subscription ID. You can use publish settings file for that, but we've already got the settings open, so let's have a look at what that subscription ID is. Pop that in, and the subscription name. Again, you could use that from that file that you've downloaded, but we already know what that is. And now we'll enter in that information that's in our text file in the Notepad. So the first one's the client ID. Then we'll pop in the key, which is that secret. Put in the tenant ID. Once we've done that, we can actually verify the account. So let's click on verify, see if it all works. Green tick, beautiful. Give it a name. Test service connection. Okay, we'll save that. So now we've got a service connection there ready to use in our pipelines. Now, in this project, we have also created a repo as well. So before we create a pipeline, let's have a look at this very simple repo. So all it is a PowerShell script and shows the account and creates a resource group and then lists that resource group name. So very, very simple there. And obviously it'll execute when we get the pipelines using that service principal account. So let's create a pipeline. Obviously it's our Azure repo. We'll start with the starter pipeline. And this is where we'll insert the Azure script into the pipeline. Let's look up Azure. There we go, Azure CLI. There's Azure PowerShell as well, but let's use Azure CLI. This is where we look at the service connection. Script type. We use PowerShell core. Now you've got to be a bit careful here because if you choose the wrong type, we're going to be using a Linux agent for the VM image to run this pipeline. So PowerShell core is needed. Put in the script path. So that's at the root. Now we've got that script open in VS Code, so let's have a look at that. Okay. Yep, it's test service connection.ps1. Oh, better fix that up. Okay, now down the bottom you've got advanced, and this is where we can access the service principal details in the script, and we'll add that in. So now that that's added in, you can see there the service principal account. To use the service principal account for that script, set to true. So we'll save that and we'll run the pipeline. So we'll see whether or not this actually works.
2 hours later.
Okay, the job's starting. Okay, it's up to the Azure CLI script. It's logged in with our service principal account. And it's completed successfully. We'll click back on that and we can see down the bottom it's created that test resource group. That's great. So it's actually worked. So let's go and have a look at Azure Cloud now and have a look at the resource groups just to see whether or not that did actually get in there. And there we go. There's the test resource group. So that's how easy it is to use service principal accounts and service connections in Azure DevOps to make sure you secure any of your connections back into Azure and other resources you need to use in DevOps. Okay, thanks. See you later.